When my daughter told me to find somewhere else to die because I was useless now, I packed my bags like the obedient mother I had always been. 3 days later, I was sitting in a lawyer's office, discovering that my supposedly loving husband had played the longest game of chess in history. Olivia was about to learn that sometimes the pawn becomes the queen. Let me tell you how I went from a homeless widow to the woman holding all the cards, because trust me, this story has more twists than a pretzel factory. 2 months ago, I was Helen Carter, devoted wife of 43 years and mother to one spectacularly ungrateful daughter. When my husband Daniel died of a heart attack at 71, I thought my world had ended. Olivia swooped in during my grief like a vulture disguised in designer clothes, cooing fake sympathy about how difficult this must be for me. "Mom, you can't possibly manage this big house alone," she had said, her voice dripping with concern that felt manufactured. "The stairs, the maintenance, all those memories, it's not healthy." I should have seen the calculation behind her words. Olivia had always been Daniel's favorite, his little princess who could do no wrong. When she married that ambitious investment banker, Andrew, and had children, Daniel doted on them endlessly. Meanwhile, I was simply the woman who cooked, cleaned, and kept everything running smoothly. After the funeral, Olivia became increasingly insistent about my living situation. She and Andrew would arrive for dinners armed with real estate pamphlets and brochures for retirement communities. "Mom, these places are wonderful. You'd have people your own age, activities, no responsibilities," she'd chirp. What they really meant was no inheritance to split and no inconvenient mother to manage. The final blow came last Tuesday. I had been staying in what Olivia now called our house for 6 weeks since Daniel's death, sleeping in the guest room because I couldn't bear to pack up our bedroom. Olivia arrived unannounced with Andrew, and 2 large suitcases. "Mom, we've made a decision," she announced. "Andrew got the promotion, and we need to move into town immediately. This house is perfect for us." I stared at her, unable to comprehend. "Move in. But this is my home." Her mask slipped for the briefest moment, revealing the cold calculation beneath. "Actually, Mom, according to Dad's will, I inherited everything. The house, the investments, all of it. I've been letting you stay here out of kindness, but it's time for you to find your own place." Her words hit me like a blow. "Olivia, surely there's been some mistake." "No mistake," she replied coolly. "Dad knew I'd take better care of his legacy than you could. You never understood money or investments. You were just the wife." Just the wife. 43 years reduced to 3 gutting words. Then she delivered the killing shot. "Find somewhere else to die. You're useless now." In a daze, I packed my things, 43 years of marriage stuffed into 2 suitcases and a box of photos. Olivia watched from the doorway, checking her watch as if I were making her late. "There's a nice senior complex on Maple Street," she added with false enthusiasm. "Very affordable. I'm sure they have openings." Affordable. My daughter was inheriting $33 million, and she was suggesting a borderline welfare facility. Andrew loaded my suitcases into their BMW with the efficiency of someone taking out the trash. "Helen, you'll love having your independence again," he said, avoiding my eyes. Independence. He meant homelessness. As they drove me to a cheap motel, I watched my home, Daniel's home, vanish in the rearview mirror. I had spent 4 decades making that house a haven, celebrating birthdays, tending to Daniel during illnesses, maintaining every detail he cared about. Now I was being unloaded at the sunset in like unwanted luggage. The motel was everything $49 a night promised. Thin walls, thinner towels, and a carpet older than some civilizations. Olivia handed me $200 like she was tipping a hotel maid. "This should cover you for a few days while you get settled," she said. "We'll transfer money into your account once we sort Dad's paperwork." Some money, from my own inheritance. After they left, I sat on the sagging mattress, trying to process the unthinkable. In 3 hours, I had gone from grieving widow to homeless senior. The daughter I had raised and loved had discarded me like expired medication. But as I stared at the peeling wallpaper, something nagged at me. Daniel had always been meticulous with legal matters. He'd shown me his will years ago, explaining every detail. And I knew it didn't say what Olivia claimed. Whatever else Daniel was, Traditional, sometimes stubborn, he wasn't cruel. The man who held my hand through every hardship wouldn't have left me destitute. The next morning, using the motel's Wi-Fi, I searched for Daniel's longtime attorney, Samuel Whitmore. His office was 20 minutes away by bus. Precious cash, but necessary. Samuel was a dignified man in his 70s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. When his secretary announced I was there, he looked genuinely surprised. "Helen, my dear, I was wondering when you'd come in. I tried calling your house several times, but Olivia said you were traveling." Traveling. That's what Olivia had told him. "Mr. Whitmore, I need to ask you about Daniel's will." He looked puzzled. "Of course. Didn't Olivia provide your copy?" "I gave her the original and several copies after the reading." My stomach dropped. Reading. I was never told about any reading. He paled. "Helen, you were supposed to be there. Olivia said you were too distraught and that she'd handle everything." The blood drained from my face. Samuel immediately pulled out a thick file containing the updated will, signed, witnessed, notarized. And as he read it aloud, I realized Olivia had lied about everything. Daniel had left me the house. 70% of all financial assets, around $23 million. And Olivia. She was left $10 million, held in trust, contingent on her treatment of me after Daniel's death. My husband had known. Somehow, he had predicted this. "Mr. Whitmore," I whispered. "Olivia told me I inherited nothing. She moved into my house. She gave me $200 and sent me to a motel." His face reddened with anger. "Helen, what Olivia did is elder abuse and fraud. And she used forged documents. Your husband updated his will 6 months ago because he was concerned about her entitlement." But the biggest shock was still coming. If Olivia failed to treat me with respect, her $10 million trust reverted to me. I stared at Samuel in disbelief. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying your daughter just cost herself $10 million. You now inherit the full $33 million plus the house." The irony was almost laughable. Her greed had triggered the very clause designed to protect me. "What do I do now?" I asked. Samuel smiled gently. "Now, we call the police. And then we call Olivia and inform her that she's about to receive the shock of her life." "Can she fight it?" "With what money?" he replied. "Every account she thinks she controls is actually yours. Everything is frozen pending investigation." I imagined Olivia in my house, planning renovations with money she believed she owned. Andrew calculating how the inheritance would boost his portfolio. They had no idea that in a few hours, the world they built on lies would crumble. Samuel's office became command central for Operation Justice, as he called it. He contacted the banks, police, and a private investigator. Detective Alvarez examined the forged will Olivia had shown me. "These are sophisticated fakes," she said. "This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment crime. Someone planned this carefully. You think Olivia had help?" "Almost certainly," Detective Alvarez answered when I asked whether Olivia had acted alone. "Creating convincing legal forgeries requires specific knowledge and connections. We'll need to investigate whether Andrew, or someone in his financial network, was involved." Within 2 hours, every account connected to Daniel's estate had been frozen. Olivia's credit cards, all linked to what she believed were her inheritance accounts, were suddenly declined. Even the house utilities, which she had already switched into her own name, were suspended pending ownership verification. At exactly 3:47 p.m., my phone rang. Olivia's name lit up the screen. "Mom, where are you? There's some kind of mix-up with the bank accounts. They're saying Daddy's assets are frozen." "Hello, Olivia," I replied calmly. "I'm sitting in Samuel Whitmore's office. You remember him? Your father's attorney, the one who read the real will to an empty room after you told him I was traveling." A beat of silence followed. "Mom, I don't know what you think you discovered." "I discovered that you're a liar and a thief." "Sweetheart," she rushed, panicked. "I was protecting you from the complexity of managing that money. You've never handled investments." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I cut in. "You forged legal documents, committed fraud, and threw your 67-year-old mother out of her own house because you thought I was too stupid to notice. Mom, you're confused, she insisted, her voice sharpening into desperation. The grief has been overwhelming, and someone is clearly taking advantage of your emotional state. The audacity almost made me laugh. Even cornered, Olivia tried to manipulate me. Olivia, dear, I said evenly, let me clarify something. Not only did you never inherit anything, but the $10 million your father left you is now mine as well, thanks to a lovely clause about treating me with dignity and respect. That's impossible. Detective Alvarez is sitting right here if you'd like to discuss the impossibility of fraud charges with her. Silence. I could almost hear her mind sprinting, grasping for an angle. Mom, she finally said, softening her voice. Please, can we meet and talk about this reasonably? I'm sure we can work something out. Oh, we'll definitely be meeting soon, I replied. At the courthouse. When you're arraigned. You wouldn't dare press charges against your own daughter. Something cold and decisive crystallized inside me. Watch me. I hung up. Samuel was beaming. How long before she's arrested? I asked. Detective Alvarez has enough evidence for a warrant. They'll pick her up this evening. And Andrew, his financial records are being subpoenaed. If he helped create those documents, he'll face charges too. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Mom, please don't do this. Think about the grandchildren. I showed it to Detective Alvarez, who smiled grimly. Classic emotional manipulation. I typed back. I'm thinking about them. They deserve to see what happens when you steal from family. 20 minutes later, Andrew called. Helen, surely we can resolve this privately, he said smoothly. Olivia made poor decisions, but involving the police seems excessive. Andrew, did you help her forge those documents? That's not, Helen. You need to understand the pressure Olivia was under. She was worried about your mental state, your ability to manage large sums. So that's a yes. It wasn't malicious, he tried. She genuinely believed she was protecting you. By throwing me out of my house and telling me to find somewhere to die. Andrew fell silent. Here's what's going to happen, I told him. You're both going to be arrested. You're both going to face federal fraud charges. And I'll be sitting in my house watching it all unfold. Helen, please be reasonable. I was reasonable for 43 years. It didn't work out well for me. Olivia was arrested at 8:30 p.m. while having dinner at Leonard, apparently celebrating her stolen inheritance with Andrew and another couple. According to Detective Alvarez, she screamed about false arrest and demanded to call her lawyer, who turned out to be Andrew's golf buddy with zero experience in criminal law. Andrew was arrested the next morning at his office. A forensic accountant traced the forged documents to a printing company his firm used for creating fraudulent investment prospectuses. My son-in-law apparently had quite the criminal resume. Whether Olivia didn't know or chose not to know was anyone's guess. That night, I slept in the master bedroom for the first time since Daniel's death. Olivia had already moved her belongings into the space, replacing Daniel's orderly arrangement with piles of designer clothes and luxury cosmetics. I packed it all into garbage bags and left them on the front porch. She could collect them when she made bail. The house felt different, not because Daniel was gone, but because I was seeing it clearly for the first time. 4 decades, I had made it Daniel's home. Now it was mine. The next day, Samuel called with updates. Olivia's bail is set at $50,000. With her accounts frozen, she'll need someone else to pay. Andrew's is $200,000. The judge didn't appreciate his history of financial crimes. Did you know he was already under investigation for securities fraud? I hadn't. But then again, they had always treated me like an outsider in my own family regarding money. Samuel, I said, I want to make some changes to the house. Olivia had renovation plans. I'd like to move forward, but with my own vision. Excellent idea, he said warmly. It's your home now. Do whatever makes you happy. And what made me happy was undoing everything Olivia had assumed she would control. She wanted to gut the kitchen, replace hardwood with marble, and turn Daniel's study into a wine cellar. I would turn the study into an art studio. The wine cellar plans? A library. That's when the phone rang, an unknown number. Mrs. Carter, this is Janet Cooper from Channel 7 News. We understand you're the victim of a major elder fraud case involving your daughter. Would you be willing to share your story? Word was out. In a city this size, the arrest of a prominent investment banker and his wife for defrauding an elderly mother-in-law was newsworthy. Miss Cooper, I said cautiously, I'm not ready to make public statements. I understand, she said. But your story could help other seniors recognize warning signs of family financial abuse. She had a point. If I decide to tell my story, I asked, would I have control over how it's presented? Absolutely. A sit-down interview with full approval over the final edit. I thought of Olivia, probably sitting in a jail cell still convinced she could charm her way out. Let me get back to you, I said. I might have quite a story to tell. That evening, I poured myself a glass of the expensive wine Andrew had gifted us, wine purchased with money he'd stolen from me, and considered whether I should publicly humiliate my daughter on television. Life had certainly taken an interesting turn. The next morning at 7 a.m. sharp, the doorbell rang. Olivia stood on my porch in yesterday's clothes, looking like she had aged 5 years overnight. She had somehow made bail. I opened the door but didn't invite her inside. Mom, please, she begged. We need to talk. We talked yesterday, I reminded her. You told me to find somewhere to die. Instead, I found somewhere to live. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her usual Polish gone. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But I'm still your daughter. Are you? I asked. Because daughters don't forge legal documents to steal their mother's inheritance. I wasn't stealing, she stopped, searching for a less incriminating word. I was trying to protect you from making poor financial decisions. You've never managed large amounts of money. Even after being arrested for fraud, she still couldn't admit the truth. In Olivia's mind, she was the victim. The room fell silent as Helen Carter's calm but determined voice filled the space. Olivia Carter Grant watched her mother with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. She had always known Helen was strong, but today she felt like seeing a completely new version of her, someone who refused to bow down, not even to the family that once controlled everything around her. Daniel Carter shifted uneasily in his seat, his jaw tightening each time Helen revealed another piece of evidence. For years, he had painted himself as the caring father, the responsible brother, the innocent man caught in complications. But now, with lawyer Samuel Whitmore presenting documents, emails, and statements, the web of lies he had spun was beginning to fall apart more quickly than he expected. Andrew Grant clenched his fists under the table, his protective instinct kicking in every time Olivia's face tightened with anger or hurt. He had promised himself that no matter what happened today, Olivia would not face any of this alone. When Helen described the financial fraud that had gone unnoticed for years, Daniel's arrogance faded. His face paled slightly, and the confident smile he wore earlier had vanished. Detective Alvarez stepped forward, placing a folder on the table. This, he said firmly, is enough to proceed with formal charges if needed. The seriousness in his tone sent a chill through the room. Daniel's eyes darted toward Olivia, searching for sympathy or hesitation, but she looked away. For the first time, he realized she was no longer the daughter who once defended him blindly. Helen reached out and placed a reassuring hand on Olivia's shoulder. You're safe now, she said softly. None of this is your fault. Olivia exhaled shakily, her heart heavy with the truth she had been running from for years. She glanced at Andrew, who gave her a small nod, a silent promise that he stood with her through every revelation and every storm. As the final pieces of evidence were laid on the table, Daniel slumped back in his chair. The walls he had built around his lies had finally cracked. Helen exchanged a firm look with lawyer Whitmore and Detective Alvarez. They had taken the first step toward justice, but the battle ahead was far from over. Olivia rose from her chair, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. This ends now, she said, her words echoing with resolve. And for the first time, everyone in the room believed her. Helen Carter watched Olivia shoot Andrew a warning glance, trying to regain control of the conversation slipping from her hands. Mom, the important thing is that we're all protected, Olivia insisted, her tone sharp but desperate. The past stays buried, and we all move forward. Helen raised an eyebrow. And what about the $33 million Daniel left me? Olivia inhaled sharply. Mom, that money is tainted. It can't be separated from Dad's criminal activities. Taking $5 million is the best outcome possible. Helen looked between the two of them. And what exactly do you get out of this arrangement? Andrew's confidence surged back, and he leaned forward. We get to put this unfortunate misunderstanding behind us. Olivia's charges disappear, my reputation remains intact, and our family can heal. Helen blinked slowly. A misunderstanding? You're still calling felony fraud a misunderstanding? Her calm question hit its mark. Andrew's jaw twitched. Helen studied him quietly before speaking again. Tell me something, Andrew. When exactly did you discover Daniel's criminal activities? His eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Helen's voice sharpened with precision. Did you know about the money laundering when you married Olivia? Or did you discover it recently, right around the time you tried to steal my inheritance? The couple exchanged a panicked glance. Helen, that's not relevant to, Andrew began, but Helen cut him off. Actually, it's very relevant. Because if you knew about Daniel's crimes and said nothing, that makes you an accessory. And if you discovered them while committing your own crimes, that makes you extremely unlucky. Olivia's composure faltered. Mom, what are you getting at? Helen leaned back. I'm getting at the fact that you two have been planning this for months, maybe years. The forged will, your discovery of money laundering, Andrew's connections to document forgers. None of this was spontaneous. That's ridiculous, Andrew snapped, just as the color drained from his face when Helen added, Agent Martinez finds it quite plausible. Olivia froze. Andrew whispered, Agent Martinez. Helen nodded. The FBI agent who has been very interested in my story, about elder abuse, fraud, and extortion. Especially the part where you tried to blackmail me with my dead husband's crimes. Andrew shot to his feet and grabbed his briefcase. This conversation is over. Helen didn't move. Actually, Andrew, it's just beginning. At that exact moment, Agent Martinez and two federal agents stepped into the living room. Andrew and Olivia sat frozen as their briefcase and phones were confiscated. Olivia Carter Grant and Andrew Grant, the agent announced. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, elder abuse, and attempted extortion of a federal witness. Olivia turned to her mother, betrayal etched across her face. Mom, how could you do this to your own family? Helen met her gaze coldly. The same way you forged legal documents and tried to steal my inheritance. Except my way is legal. As the agents cuffed them, Andrew made one last reckless attempt. Helen, you don't understand what you've done. Daniel had connections, people who won't appreciate federal attention. You're in danger. Martinez halted mid-sentence and stared at him. Mr. Grant, are you threatening a federal witness? I'm warning her, Andrew protested. The reality, Martinez replied, is that you just added witness intimidation to your charges. After the couple was taken away, Martinez sat across from Helen. Kevin's warning isn't entirely empty, she said. Your husband had ties to dangerous people. How dangerous? Helen asked quietly. The Torino crime family, Martinez answered. Your husband's consulting firm laundered their money for years. Helen felt the air shift around her. Am I in danger? Potentially, Martinez admitted. But there's something else you should know, something that changes everything. She pulled out a thick FBI file. Your husband wasn't just laundering money. He was an FBI informant for 12 years. Deep cover. His cooperation led to 47 arrests and over $200 million in seized assets. The money he left you. It's legally yours, earned through federal cooperation. None of it is criminal. Helen stared, stunned. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because the investigation was ongoing. And because your daughter and son-in-law's fraud scheme helped confirm your innocence. Ironically, Olivia and Andrew had planned to blackmail Helen with information that actually cleared Daniel's name. Helen exhaled slowly. What happens now? You get your money back. They face federal charges. And you decide what kind of life you want to build. 6 months later, Helen stood in her bright new kitchen, sunlight pouring through windows. She finally had the freedom to choose. Dr. Sarah Chen, her financial advisor, arrived with a folder. Your foundation is thriving, Sarah said. The scholarship program is underway, and your investments are strong. Helen nodded. The Helen Carter Foundation for Elder Protection had become her purpose. $15 million dedicated to safeguarding seniors from exactly what she had survived. And the documentary. Netflix is starting production next month. But Olivia had written 17 letters from federal prison. Helen had stopped opening them. Some wounds couldn't be healed with paper and apologies. Should I schedule a meeting with her lawyer? Sarah asked carefully. Helen didn't hesitate. Yes. I need Olivia to understand that her relationship with me ended the moment she tried to destroy my life. Actions have consequences. And the grandchildren. My relationship with them will be based on who they become, Helen replied softly, not who raised them. Later, alone in her art studio, once Daniel's den, now her sanctuary, Helen studied her newest painting. A self-portrait of a woman standing in sunlight, unafraid, powerful. That woman wasn't the grieving widow who arrived on her daughter's doorstep with 2 suitcases. This woman had rebuilt her life, defended her dignity, and discovered her worth. This woman was her. The best revenge wasn't getting even. It was becoming everything her enemies never believed she could be.